It's the Mustang Insider Show. Now, here's Chris Sylvester, the voice of the Mustangs.
And there she is, Baggett Stadium in all its glory. It's almost time to play a little baseball. Welcome to another edition of the Cal Poly Mustang Insider. I'm Chris Sylvester, to be joined by Larry Lee, the longtime skipper of the Cal Poly Mustangs baseball team. This season, we're going to preview the Mustangs' opening road trip, takes them to UCLA, Texas A&M. Should know a lot about this team by the time they lift the lid off the home schedule when Seton Hall comes to town here at the end of February. As always, Dignity Health French Hospital Medical Center has made this podcast possible. Now let's chat with the skipper, number 22, Larry Lee. All right, Skip, appreciate you taking some time before you guys take that bus trip down to Westwood and take on UCLA, and we'll get into the schedule. But, I mean, can you believe it? I mean, it felt like just yesterday we were flipping the calendar to 2025. I know you guys have been at it since fall ball, inter squads, and taking trips up to Stanford and taking on different programs in the fall to get ready for what 2025 has to offer. But does it ever sneak up on you, or is it just such a yearly routine for you by now that, okay, February, like, let's get this thing going?
No, it actually takes forever to get here. So at the end of the spring season, it just that off season lasts forever. You know, you have the summer months where you're recruiting, and then you start your fall practice, and then once you get to January, you have 3 weeks to really prepare for the season, and then once the season starts, it usually goes pretty quick. So, but we're looking forward to playing somebody besides ourselves in inter squads, because you never know if your pitching's good or if your hitting's good, because sometimes it's kind of one-sided because you see each other so much. So we need to start. We can start making our adjustments now when we start playing outside competition.
How much different has the off season been for you the last couple of years? Obviously, getting to go see Brooks make his debut last summer in the show had to be special, and trying to follow him around and see as much of his games in person as possible. So how much different have your summers looked the last couple of years going and watching your offspring play some ball?
Well, I don't do very much recruiting anymore in the summer. So like we'll have camps here that I see everybody come through. But for the most part, I have 3 assistant coaches that do the bulk of the recruiting. I'll go out occasionally. So it's a lot different than what it used to be, where your summer was taken up by going to event after event and state after state. So it's a lot better now. I don't get to see Brooks in person until probably a third of his season is completed. I don't get to see spring training, but luckily we live in a time where all the games are televised, and most of the spring training games are televised. So while I'm doing work in the office, there's a 3-hour gap during spring training, so I get to see those at a good hour, and then when his regular season happens, just depends on where he is, but there's a 2-hour difference between Minneapolis and San Louis, so it's all good. If this was 40 years ago, it wouldn't be that good. You'd be reading day-old newspapers. So it's been good. It's just gives me something to look forward to, after practice or after finishing everything that needs to take place before we play somebody.
I don't think I've had a chance to ask you on record since it had been a while, but how cool is it to see him and Drew Thorpe square off last year in Chicago? I know Drew got the best of Brooks. I think he might have punched him out on 3 pitches in the first or second at bat, but then, Brooks had the last laugh, taking him deep.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Flew back there for 2 games. First game was rained out, so the game that they faced each other was I think the second game of a doubleheader, and there's about 5,000 people in the the White Sox stadium, and it was pretty cool. Like the Twins manager led Brooks off. That was the only time he led off, probably just because of the familiarity of he and Drew. And I was kind of curious what Drew was going to throw him first pitch because he'd faced Brooks so many times in inter squads, and he faced him probably 3 different games in at Team USA. So I threw him a fastball right there, and he rolled over on a ground ball to second base, his first at bat, and then Drew struck him out on I think a cutter, kind of a check swing, and then the last time up, I think threw him the same pitch, and Brooks got the head out and snuck it over the right field fence. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, first of back-to-back shots, him and Carlos Correa. I mean,
Yeah.
it must be, and it's cool to see Brooks come on back to slow. I know he spent a lot of the off season here, kind of getting ready to go back out to Florida and get ready for spring ball. But just kind of seeing him come back to the place where it all got started, I think is special for Cal Poly fans and just locals that have followed his career because we had heard about Brooks here in this region for long before he became a legitimate MLB draft prospect, whether that be in his early years at Slow High or even playing some pony ball before then. So obviously we always wish Mustang alums well, but obviously with your connection to Brooks, it's extra special. And let's talk a little bit about what you lost from 24 because look, at this juncture of your career, I know anything short of the postseason is coming up short of your expectation. But coming off the year that was 2023, I thought you guys made a lot of strides. Obviously, a lot of that was health related. You had a better rotation that was more consistent. Jacob Wright kind of being a mainstay there after coming back and kind of being on an innings limit in 23. But you lose Wright to the Dodgers. Stephen Brooks is gone. Jake Steele's graduated. Joe York, Aaron Casillas graduated, among other guys. So give me a synopsis, if you will, for fans that maybe aren't too familiar with your 25 roster. What is this team going to look like? What do you hope the strength of this team is? And what's the weakness of this team right now? Like, where do you need to see this team get better to feel comfortable going into the Big West?
Well, probably overall, I think offensive, we're at a pretty decent spot. We lost Steels and Stafford, two cogs, both offensively and defensively up the middle. And then, you lose York and Casillas, your first baseman, shortstop. Hard to replace, especially Stafford and Steels. From a pitching aspect, losing Wright was our main one. I mean, he's our Friday guy. Was had the ability to beat anybody at any time, and had a very successful year. But I think we've kind of done some pretty good things. We've developed some players. Had a couple of freshmen come in. So, with Stafford behind the plate, we replaced him with Jack Collins. He's a transfer from Long Beach State. He's pretty good. He's a fast twitch guy back there. Good receive, good block, good throw. He's not Stafford in the hitting, but he's not he's not an out. Up the middle, you have Fenback, who's one of our better hitters last year, and you have a kid named Nate Castellon, who's a freshman shortstop, and he's just a baseball player. He's adds more range than Aaron at shortstop. High baseball IQ, better bat. So he's a quality player. And at the corners, right now you could have Braxton Thomas, but he's coming off his second knee surgery, so he's not quite ready to play first base. But Zach Daudet, we're going with a middle infielder that can give us some defense at first base and hit him lower in the lineup. Garza's at third base, back for his sophomore year. He was the second toughest players strike out in Division One. All those teams, over 300 teams. In the outfield right now, the guys that have separated themselves is Casey Murray, probably man center field. You have Cordic Bat that just hit over 300 in right field, and probably a freshman, Dante Vicini, left-handed hitter, 6'3", uh, that adds some offense, adds some speed to the lineups. And then the DH right now would be Braxton Thomas, and just starting to show lately what he's capable of. So I feel pretty confident. It's a fairly stressful lineup, just a little bit of power in the lineup. Not tremendous amount of speed, but it's a solid offensive lineup. Defensively, those guys can all play. Guys right on the edge. White King, he can play anywhere in the outfield. High level defensive player, has really improved his offensive capabilities. Then you have guys that are backups right now, but have a chance. Dylan Knowles, switch hitting outfielder, might see some time at first base. So we're trying to figure out what works best. But after watching 8 inter squad games, I think that team that I just initially talked about, those seem to be the guys that are going to get the opportunity from day one. We'll see how it goes. And I tell our players, I mean, the lineup the first day of the season is not going to be the lineup the last day of the season. So you got a chance to leapfrog people, and you can be in the lower third of a depth chart, and you can have a couple good games and be in the upper third of it. From a pitching standpoint, I think we have 3 solid starters with Ness throwing on Fridays, Josh Volmerding on Saturday, and Ethan Marmee, who's really stepped up, throwing on Sunday. Those guys have separated themselves, and Marmee hasn't been a starter at this level. Volmerding late last season, and then Ness was our Sunday starter probably from week 3 on, and was really successful. So there's nothing overpowering. They pitch. Marmee has maybe the higher end fastball, but they've all developed their secondary pitches, and that's what we roll out right now. There's not anybody. Any other starter would have to be like a bullpen game, or we'd have somebody go out there and start a game, get 2 or 3 innings, and then make it a bullpen situation. Two returners towards the end of the game, Jacob Torres and Sagupsi, Tanner. Those guys have experience. They both were in 28 games last year. We would like to not use them as much as that, but that just means our bullpen needs to be strong. And if there was a weak link right now in my eyes, that's where it is. It's that bullpen situation. I'd like to have maybe 6 guys throwing innings. Very difficult to know, who's going to be successful. Again, it goes back to just when the inter squads, our hitters have seen our guys so many times. But Perlman is a good arm from the left side. You have some experience with Charlie Royal. So it's wait and see. These guys are going to be thrown right into the fire because we open up 4 games. We're down at UCLA for 3, and then we stay on Monday and play LMU. So we're going to travel with 12 pitchers, and I'd say the majority of those guys are going to get their feet wet this weekend.
Well, that's exciting, man. I think it's almost like when your favorite team rolls out its depth chart. I mean, you kind of just gave us a synopsis of what fans can expect. And it's not a terrible drive. Get down to Westwood and get some green and gold in the stands there at Jackie Robinson Stadium. I think you guys haven't been down there since 2017. I think Griffin Canning was the Friday night guy for UCLA last time you faced him, and he was bidding for a complete game. I don't know if he finished it off, but you guys finally broke through in the 9th inning against him. I know we didn't win that game, but Obviously, Griffin has gone on to be in the big league rotations with the Angels, signed with the Mets this offseason after he got traded for Jorge Soler. Just funny to connect the dots with the series history with UCLA. UCLA came to our place, beautiful Baggett Stadium, in 2021, and I remember Brooks took Nick Nastrini deep, and Nastrini was in the rotation for the Chicago White Sox for a little bit with Drew Thorpe last year. So, I mean, just West Coast baseball produces so many, as you know, Skip, guys that you'll see at the next level. Not only guys that you'll see at the next level, but guys that you'll see get expedited through minor league baseball into the majors pretty quickly. I want to ask you about some of the pitchers that you didn't mention. Just I think guys that if you're a fan and you're going down the roster and you're seeing, man, okay, we got Von Major from UC Santa Barbara. We've got a pitcher transfer from Arizona, and then Turnquist, who's from Paso originally, redshirted through an injury last year after coming over from Oklahoma. We know he has a big arm. Have heard that unfortunately Kovac, the left-hander from Allen Hancock, is going to be down this year. But what about some of those arms that we haven't seen yet in games for Cal Poly? I know a lot of people maybe had projected Turnquist as a weekend rotation guy. Where's he at with his rehab, and might we see him at some point start some games for you this season?
We'll see. He's just not quite ready from a physical standpoint. So he and Kovac had surgery basically at the same time. Kovac has is fine from a arm standpoint, but had ACL surgery and hoping to get him back in the latter third of the season. Turnquist still battling some arm issues. He had Tommy John surgery and still isn't 100%. Moreno, he's a left-handed pitcher, transfer from University of Arizona. He needs to be a valuable piece of our bullpen. And then Von will probably miss the entire season. He had labrum surgery before he got here, and he's still not close to being 100%. Got a couple freshmen that we haven't seen, Luke Kalsbeek and Troy Cooper. One, Kalsbeek, a left-hander from Northern California, Cooper, a right-hander from Southern California. They're going to get their opportunities to show what they have. They're both in time going to be solid arms in our program. So then there's a few more out of the 12 that we will travel with, but we won't be able to travel with Turnquist or Kovac this week.
UCLA first, and then you got a midweek, which is really just kind of piggybacking. You got 4 games in 4 days here down in LA. You go to LMU Monday, and then College Station, reigning national runner-up A&M, almost got it done last year against the Tennessee Volunteers in Omaha, but it's a new look program with Schloss now in Austin, but they're just expected to be just as good. I mean, they're the preseason #1 in the country. They've got a ton of first round pick potential on that roster. I know you saw Texas early last year, and the Bats were struggling on that trip. How much opportunity do you see these first 2 weekends of the season? Now, UCLA had a down year last season. We'll see how they project in the Big Ten. It would be surprising for a Savage-led program to have back-to-back down seasons with all that they've accomplished with him at the helm. But we've talked about this for years. Like, I mean, the first 2 weeks of the season, it's like for whatever reason we find ourselves looking back on that in late April, early May, and it's like, dang, we have a regional caliber team, but the RPI's in the 80s, it's in the 90s. How much of the conversation with some of the guys and some of your staff has been around? Man, I mean, we could really set the tone for our season here before we even flip the calendar to March.
Yeah, well, we have to. We have to survive the first 2 weeks. We have to win games. It's good that if we can win games, they're on the road. So, but we have to set the tone right off the get-go. Last year, I think it took until the last game of the third week, so that was too late. I think we started out 2-7, and then we rolled from there. I think we were 33, and I forget what the loss total was, but it wasn't very many. Won 8 of our 10 conference series, but that's not good enough because lately somebody's always ran away with the conference title. And we did the same thing in 22 where we won 9 of the 10 conference series, and I think we were 22 and 8, and we were still, we had a team run away with it and weren't considered for postseason. So yeah, we usually takes us a while. But we can't afford like game one is going to be as important as our last game of the season. So need to be successful, need to win games, win a series, and then go into that third week just in the conversation. And then as we continue to get better, if we stay healthy, then hopefully good things can happen. We finally have a conference tournament this year. It's a five-team conference tournament. Teams 4 and 5 play a play-in game, and then after that play-in game, it's a 4-team double elimination. So that'll be different. Now we just have to, if we don't win our conference, we need to be in the top 5 and preferably in the top 3. So it's that you're going to be in a double elimination. And I think in 21 years with this format, we would have made it 18 out of the 21 years. So, but it has nothing to do with this year. It's like it's a new year, new situation, and new challenges. And yeah, we do. It's another great non-conference schedule, and I'd rather do it that way than like put together a softer schedule where you get built-in wins. You got to try to have some of those, but there's not a lot of built-in wins anymore. So everybody has the ability to beat you.
Yeah, Davis is getting better. Hawaii under Rich Hill has been competitive. Obviously, UC Santa Barbara, UC Irvine, always going to be in the conversation. You can hope that Cal State Fullerton can kind of get back to where they were. It's been a little strange seeing that program not really be in the national conversation lately, although they did go to the tournament like a couple years ago. So it is nice to have that Big West tournament, right? I mean, like the only way it wouldn't be nice is if you were to win the regular season, but the RPI wasn't sexy enough for an at-large, and then all of a sudden it's like, man, if only we could have done that each of the last 3 or 4 years, then we get the automatic bid. But lately, it's felt like exactly like what you said. Like you go into that last month of the season, and last year, for example, the Big West was a 2-bid league. You won a series against Santa Barbara, you won a series against UC Irvine. Those teams are in the postseason. You're not. Obviously, that would give your team confidence should you have a similar season going into, like you said, a double elimination 5-team type of setting like that. That's going to be at Goodwin Field in Fullerton this year. Fullerton comes here to lift the lid off conference play in early March. You also have a very intriguing series against an Oregon State team that's in the top 10 conversation right now when you look at some of the preseason polls. I mean, I know your focus is on your program and your program only and getting these guys better to try and make some noise here these first 2 weekends. But from afar, what are your thoughts on what the Big West might look like this year? Is it another year where you could have 2, 3 teams maybe get into the postseason, in your opinion?
Don't know. Well, it's kind of a new territory with UCLA, SC, and Oregon and Washington going in the Big Ten, and Stanford and Cal going in the ACC. So we'll see. We'll see how UCLA's RPI is going to be. You want it to be good. We used to play 9 or 10 games on a lot of different years against the Pac-12, but it didn't really help us. You'd play those high-end teams, but then you'd play some kind of the lower-end teams, and you just hope that when you play these teams, you hope to win the series, and you hope that they go on to have successful seasons, because that'll help you. So this is a little different. This is the first time that we've kind of seen this landscape in college baseball. So it's up in the air. You hope that's going to work out for us, but yeah, we just need to win games. That seems to be, the magic combination, and you probably set your sights on 40, and there's no comfortable situation. I mean, we've won 38 a couple different times not gotten in, and 37, and so Irvine's gone through the same deal where 2 or 3 years ago they were really good, won maybe 37 games and didn't get in. So we've all kind of had our taste out here in the West, but now playing those teams, there's less common opponents because they're in different conferences now, which was probably going to be a good thing. Now Oregon State, like, they're as good as anybody in the country, and the downfall on that is they're independent, but I think they're playing 8 of the Big West teams, and so it's probably not a good situation. But it was an opportunity for us to play a high caliber team, and we have them at home this year, and we'll be up there in 26. So that might not work out in our favor because there is some common opponents with who they play. So, but schedule's locked in, and now we just gotta go out and do our job.
Larry Lee joining us on Mustang Insider, embarking on his 23rd season. You see a yard like this. I know this is an older picture here of beautiful Baggett Stadium. What comes to mind when you see, I don't know, for whatever reason, this looks like a midweek game in the background. I could be wrong. Could be like a Friday night, Saturday night. But I mean, I know your office is in Baggett, and you're in Baggett more than we are as people that just come on game days. But like, what comes to mind when you see that ballpark? Because to me, there's no better treat, and it's in large part to what you've done in your time in the history of Cal Poly baseball. But like, you get to Baggett, there's just a different type of feel being at that facility, calling a game, watching a game, for you coaching a game. How special is it to call Baggett Stadium home? I mean, it truly is just a gem out west in college baseball.
Well, I think it has everything to do with our fans. It's like we draw really well. I think the last 3 years, I think we've led the state in attendance. And it's not just a quiet crowd. They get into it. They look forward to baseball. It's kind of a baseball community, and you're drawing people from like Lompoc to Paso Robles, everywhere in between. And so it's a great setting. It took a long time. It didn't happen overnight. And just saw an old picture with wooden rodeo bleachers that went 5 rows up, and you had like 2 of those on each side. And now with the capacity that we have, it looks like a ballpark, a nice college ballpark. Obviously, being from here, like, I don't notice it, but I understand it. Like, just the backdrop, the setting of the mountains in all around you, and obviously how nice it is, and great surface, and there's a lot of positives, and it just continues to get better and better. And so it's a real good college baseball park, and we try to bring in quality opponents so we can allow our community to see some of the best baseball in the country.
Home opener February 28th. It's a Friday night, 6 o'clock, when the Seton Hall Pirates come to town for a 4-game Big East, Big West battle. And then, you blink, Cal State Fullerton comes to town, first of many a conference weekends. Coach, as always, appreciate your time. Safe travels down to LA and out to College Station and everywhere in between. We'll be pulling for you guys, and excited to have you come on home before the month of February ends.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Appreciate it.
This has been the Mustang Insider Show. The preceding has been a Learfield's presentation on the Cal Poly Sports Network.